In this week's Talking About Orks, we're going to be going over the Gorkanaut. And even though the Morkanaut is first in the codex, I'm going to go over the Gorkanaut first, because when I get to the Morkanaut, I'm going to be making a lot of comparisons to the Gorkanaut. So, Gorkanaut is a single model equipped with the Death Storm Mega Shooter, 2 twin big shooters, 2 rocket launchers, a Scorcha, and a Claw of Gork, or possibly Mork. It starts out at movement 8, weapon skill 3, which both degrade, and the number of attacks is what degrades. So it goes from 8 to 6 to 4, and then 3 to 4 to 5 on the weapon skill, and 6, 5, 4 on the attacks, which is still, even at low, it's still pretty good. Movement, let's see, ballistic skill 5, strength 8, toughness 8, wounds 18, leadership 7, and a 3-up save. Death Storm Mega Shooter is 36-inch range, heavy 18, strength 6, minus 1 damage. You notice that's the exact same shooting output as a Daka jet in that one gun. Just saying. Rocket launches, Scorches, of course, twin big shooter, and Claw of Gork has 2 modes: strength times 2, minus 4 AP, d6 damage, or strength user, which is 8, stays at 8, minus 2 and 2 damage, and make 3 hit rolls for each attack made with this weapon. So you can go up to 18 attacks at top tier. It has Here We Go, which is incredibly important, and Daka. Explodes d6 on a 6. It explodes, and each unit within 9 inches suffers d6 mortal wounds. So having this go off in the middle of your lines is not a good thing. Big and stompy. This model can fall back in the movement phase and still shoot and or charge in the same turn. In addition, this model can move and fire heavy weapons without suffering the penalty to its hit rolls. Finally, this model only gains a bonus to its save for being in cover if at least half the model is obscured from the firer. And it is also a transport that carries 6 flash gits or clan infantry models, and each mega armored or jump pack counts as 2. It is an Ork clan vehicle transport Gorkanaut. And the Gorkanaut fully cooked comes out to 311 points, which is, night range, but it is not Titanic, but it has pretty much all the same rules as a Titanic model, being able to fall back and still shoot and assault, and being able to move and shoot heavy weapons without penalty. So it has all the benefits of being Titanic without actually being Titanic, because there's a lot of things that trigger on the Titanic keyword. So that's a big advantage for the Gorkanaut. The Gorkanaut basically is amazing. I mean, it's not broken, because it is still a vehicle that can be shot down pretty easily. But it has a lot of advantages, and I think it's well priced for what you get out of it. First of all, obviously you have to have a custom force field nearby. There's just no other way around it. If you're going to take a Gorkanaut, you have to have a force field. And they're slow enough where you can use a force field on foot if you need to. I prefer the bike. Its shooting is a very good running with all those weapons. We're talking 30 anti-infantry shots between the two twin big shooters and the Death Storm Mega Shooter. That's 30 shots, and you get the heavy flamer and the rockets on top of it. And the ballistic skill does not degrade. So very important, because if you're running this in Bad Moons or Freebooters, especially Freebooters, and Death Skulls, not so much, because there's no shots, doesn't really help Death Skulls too much. But mainly Bad Moons and Freebooters, even if he's down to his last wound, he still has the exact same amount of firepower. So don't ever dismiss the Gorkanaut shooting. That is most of what it's going to be doing. And if you combine it with a lot of anti-vehicle shooting from other vehicles, your opponent's going to have a hard time deciding what to shoot at. I mean, using the Gorkanaut, building a list around the Gorkanaut is important as far as I'm concerned. My current freebooters list, where I have 3 planes and 4 buggies that run up advance very quickly, get in front of the Gorkanaut, and provide just tons of shooting, gives my opponent more than enough distractions so the Gorkanaut can live. I've had the Gorkanaut survive games because my opponent's been dealing with the 7 other models that are right in his face. And that happens time and time again, especially since all those models I use are serious threats. So But even without that, you do have to have something to kind of take the pressure off the Gorkanaut. Otherwise, it's just going to be shot down turn 1, and if it explodes in your line, that's not a good thing, because that is a huge bubble of explosion. I said I've had a lot of success with my freebooters Gorkanaut, mainly because of the ability to provide other targets. And that's something that's true about anything that's big and stompy. Whether it be knights or whatever, you got to provide other targets, other priorities that you have to deal with first. The Gorkanaut especially does that because it does have 18 wounds. It is toughness 8. Both of those things really do benefit it tremendously. Having that extra toughness is more important than you would normally think, because something like a battle cannon is just going to bounce off of this thing half the time. A melt-a-gun is only going to be wounding on 4s. So all that toughness 8 is huge. So it has, again, it's essentially a knight without being a knight. I think overall the Gorkanaut is everything you want it to be. I think it's got more than enough shooting. It's got plenty of close combat ability. Plenty. If you get it in on top tier, you're going to be, no matter if you're using a big unit where you get 18 attacks, or you're fighting something big where you get your 6 huge attacks. Either way, it's going to be just deadly in combat. The number of shots is just insane. And overall, the Gorkanaut has very little downside, other than just being a vehicle that can be shot just like any other vehicle. But again, that's true across the entire game. The one thing you don't want to do is have the Gorkanaut as your only thing. You have a Gorkanaut, 180 boys, don't do that. That's not the way to run the Gorkanaut. Running the Gorkanaut, as I said, requires other things your opponent needs to shoot first. Because Gorkanaut is relatively slow and moves only 8 inches, which seems like a lot, but it's really not. And compared to the 14 inches of the buggies or the 20 inches of the airplanes, it's not that fast. And you definitely don't want it up in center. You want to kind of downplay its importance until it shoots once, and then your opponent's like, okay, that's got to die. And I haven't even used its transportability yet. I just haven't had a chance to yet, but I'm sure there's something that can be good in there. A 3 mega knob unit, not a bad option. Of course, if it explodes, once it dies and you roll a 1, you're going to be losing a whole 3 wound mega knob, but that's not something that's good. But you can never forget that it does have transport capacity. It's not so much, but you can put a small unit of something in there. And again, if you want to take like a unit of 5 knobs with either 2 choppas or a big choppa or choppa, that's only 18. I mean, that's what, 90 points, and it's still a good threat to come out of the Gorkanaut. So I guess really what I want to say about the Gorkanaut is that you want to check out my other battle reports where I've been playing my freebooters and see what the Gorkanaut does. Since that Raven Guard player, the Gorkanaut just kind of moved up slowly shooting, and then all of a sudden when most of the other army was depleted, here comes the Gorkanaut, unwounded, right in my opponent's face. It got there finally, and there was so little left on the other side, the Gorkanaut was just able to just kind of wipe out everything that remained. And that's what happens more often than not. By the time the Gorkanaut becomes relevant and a threat, you've depleted your opponent's army. I've depleted my opponent's army enough where it's not going to get killed too quickly. And that's how you're going to have to play the Gorkanaut. It's something that needs to be supported by distractions. But if you can do that, the Gorkanaut will perform admirably. And the other key point I want to remember is that its shooting is more important than its close combat, because the ballistic skill does not degrade. So even if it's on its last wound, you're going to be shooting exactly the same as if it was at full wounds. So keep that in mind. The Gorkanaut is a shooting platform more than a close combat platform, but its close combat is exceptional on top of that. So the Gorkanaut is an amazing model. It only lacks the survivability, which is a universal thing in the Ork Codex. Everything lacks survivability in our book. But if it can survive long enough to do its job, it will do the job fantastically. So, and I've even gotten into the Dread Mob from Villages Defiant, where you can shoot twice with this guy. Freebooters get that +1 to hit, then shoot twice. It's fantastic what the Gorkanaut can do. And when you have a cool model, and it is such a cool model on top of it. So I would definitely recommend you have to kind of build your list around the Gorkanaut to provide those distractions, but it's more than worth it. I love the Gorkanaut. It's a fantastic model, fantastic unit on the board, and I think it is fairly priced. For the damage output I get out of mine, the 311 points seems to be fairly priced, to be honest. I don't have problems with the cost of the Gorkanaut. I only have a problem, just like everything else, I can reiterate this is the Ork thing, you lack survivability. So you've got to play for that lack of survivability. Most people, I see a lot of Gorkanauts on the tables. I'm glad to see that. I love the model. I love the unit. So if you do play Gorkanauts, let me know how you play them in the comments below. And thanks for watching. Play this guy. He's great. Thank you for watching this episode of Talking About Orks. Please subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications for new Talking About Orks videos every Wednesday, new battle reports every Friday, and hobby videos whenever I can. Thanks for watching.